So when you get that you are vibrational interpreters, and that the way you feel is the most significant way of all of the way that you interpret your experience, then you begin to understand that your emotions are your guidance. They are the guidance that helps you to understand the vibrational relationship between the aspects of your vibrational being. Now, we want you to understand that you are more than you are in these physical bodies. You are source energy extended into this furthest leading edge place. Many physical humans do not even come close to understanding that. Many physical humans think that non-physical is perfect, that non-physical has somehow got it all figured out and finished, and that now for some odd reason that you have been sent here to find some way of proving your worthiness so that you can rejoin that which is already complete in its creation, in its perfection. And we're wanting you to understand that that which you call God, that which we call source, that which is non-physical energy, is that which is the root or the heart of you, but that you are the leading edge of that. And when you were born into these physical bodies, you didn't separate yourself from that. You brought that here. In other words, that's who came here in this body. That part of you that you call spirit or soul, the essence of you, that non-physical energy of you came. If that part of you did not come, they would have pronounced you dead at birth. That non-physical energy essence came and still remains. In other words, it doesn't go away. Even in the time of death, you reemerge back into that energy. You can never separate yourself from that. And that energy, that pure positive energy, is this stream of source energy that really knows who you are, that is you and knows who you are, that flows to you constantly and steadily. So here's this non-physical energy flowing to you, and here you are in your physical body having response to your physical environment. Now this is where it becomes really interesting, especially to us, tricky for you, interesting for us. And that is that in this physical body, as you don your personality and as you begin to observe the things of your time-space reality, when you give your attention to something, you activate the vibration of whatever it is you're giving your attention to within you. And now you are having a feeling response that's letting you know how that activation matches or doesn't match the activation of your source who is flowing through you. As Jerry and Esther are traveling with their guidance systems in their vehicles, you very well may have them too. The systems are operating because of two premises, and only two premises, where they are and where they want to go. So they program in the destination of where they want to go, and Magellan calculates the route between where they are and where they want to be. 2 points of vibrational relativity. Magellan never says, where have you been? Why were you here so long? I'm not going to give you an answer because yesterday you asked and I told you and you didn't listen, so now you're on your own. In other words, Magellan just calculates the route between where they are and where they want to be. And you have a similar guidance system within you that calculates the route between where you are and who you really are. Now, we want to just take a little bit of time here to explain that, because once you get this, then you'll understand all of your emotions. And once you understand all of your emotions, then you will never again not know where you are in relationship to anything you want. It's time for you, friends, finally, to quantify your own journey. As Jerry and Esther are traveling from Phoenix to San Diego, they're not ever lost. They know which way to go. And so they're not discouraged for all of those miles that they're not yet there. They know they're going to get there. It's just a matter of staying pointed in the right direction and continuing to go. And then you can't miss. But what if you're not pointed in the right direction? What if they got all the way to Yuma, got off the freeway, couldn't find anything to eat, got all disoriented and unhappy because they're not yet in San Diego, got back on the freeway, didn't know which way they were going, and went back to Phoenix. Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma. We can understand why that sort of journey would be frustrating, but we do not understand why any journey would be frustrating when it's a sure thing, if you're pointed in the right direction and you keep going, that you've got to get to where you're going. So what we are suggesting is that you may want to find a way that you can quantify your journey. You want to be able to tell which way you're going. And the thing that's tricky for most of you is that you're listening to this one and 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 all these people out there in the peanut gallery who have an idea of which way you should be going, and you lose your way usually pretty early on in your experience. Now here's the part that we really want you to get, because it's new for some of you, and it's the part that helps you to finally understand why your guidance system works at all. So here's what happens. Here you are in this physical body, exploring the contrast of your experience. And as you explore it, you see things wanted and not wanted, wanted and not wanted. And in all of that deciphering, you are constantly giving birth to new preferences. It just happens that way. You cannot live a moment of knowing what you don't want without concluding on many levels of your awareness what you do want. You know when you're sick that you want to be well. You know when you don't have enough money that you want more money. You know when someone's rude to you that you want it to be different than that, or when you're rude to someone you want it to be different. You can tell by the way you feel that you want it to be different. So you're exploring the contrast, and in all of that exploration you are constantly giving birth to new preferences, new desires, new want. Now here's the part that we really want you to hear. When you give birth to that new desire, whether you're even consciously aware that you have done it or not, the source energy part of you, remember that you are the leading edge of, the source energy part of you goes immediately to that new preference and becomes vibrationally one with it. That's why we can write a book, an accurate, honest book that says, when you ask, it is given. Not only is it given, everything that is source becomes the part of you that wants whatever life has caused you to want. Isn't that wonderful to know? Now here's the part that you have to be aware of. So something has caused the larger part of you, the non-physical part of you, to become that expanded being. But guess what? You are not up to speed, and it's normal that you wouldn't be with that expanded being. In other words, you have just, through your life, through your exploration of life, given birth, you have expanded. You have done just exactly what you intended to do when you came forth. You caused an expansion of the universe by deciphering through your unique, worthy, selfish, important perspective. You gave birth to something beyond where you were, and Source said, you should know. No one can know better than you what you want. And so the non-physical energy followed that stream, rode that rocket of desire, and became a vibrational match. Now you've been launching those rockets every day of your experience. Rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket. Do you know what's being held for you in vibrational escrow? Can you imagine the source that has been in the process of becoming for you? Do you know that's why you feel so ornery and crummy when you don't let yourself get up to speed with who you have become? Now, we promised you that we would point out to you these 2 points of vibrational relativity. That's what they are. Your life caused you to become this. And as you became this, now you must get vibrationally up to speed with what you have become in order to come back into your alignment. And if you don't, your discord is there. So let's say that you've been living something and something has happened. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe not enough money came in. Maybe you thought you were going to sell something and it didn't sell. Maybe you overextended yourself. Maybe someone new came into your life and you spent a bunch of money on them and you got overextended. In other words, all kinds of things happened that upset the balance of your financial standing. So here you are, and you're feeling, let's say, strong negative emotion. You're really worried about money. And you go to the mailbox and you get that stack of bills, and you don't even want to turn your computer on or look at your checkbook because you don't want to face where you're at. You just know, so the bills kind of stack up and you don't open them because you don't want to face it. And you can feel all that sort of churning within you. Well, in all of that churning and all of that discomfort, and even before, you were launching rockets of desire. And Source has been lining up with all kinds of circumstances and events to bring more money to you. But as you're standing in this place of worry, you're not a vibrational match to what Source has lined up to you. Do you know the millions, the multi-millions of dollars that are being held lovingly for you in vibrational escrow? But because you're over here beating the drum of trauma or worry and complaint and jealousy, you're nowhere near the vibrational match to what you are wanting. You are not a vibrational match to what you have become. what you have become and what you are letting yourself become is the crack. And the reason that we want to say to you that you will be eternally living life in the crack is because as soon as you launch a rocket of desire and you allow yourself to get up to speed with it, the next thing that happens is there is a new vibrational place that you are standing from which you are launching new rockets, which you now must become a vibrational match to, you see. You're not ever going to get it done, and you can't get it wrong. And the reason that you can't get it wrong is because you never get it done. You're always going to be in the place where you can move yourself up this emotional scale into vibrational alignment with who you really are. So here you are, non-physical energy, before your physical birth, and you are one powerful stream of pure positive energy. And then you're born. In the moment that you're born, your consciousness is introduced to the variety of the human earth experience. And in that moment, there is a slight separation of your vibration. That's why you cry when you're born. In other words, it's a bit shocking. You all worry about death. It's birth you should worry about. Death is a piece of cake. In other words, you die, you reemerge into pure positive energy. When you're born, now that's not easy. To come into an environment where people worry, where they don't like each other, where they fuss about things. So here you are, you're born, and you are now not quite the pure positive energy stream that you were. But then you sleep and you are. You wake up and you're not. You sleep and you are. You wake up and you're not. But you begin to acclimate, and even as that early infant, even when you're awake, you have the very powerful potential. It sort of depends on your environment of being that pure positive energy. But then you grow up and you go to school and they tell you what you're doing wrong, and they compare you with one person and another person, and you get more and more separated. The more you try to socialize with your physical world, the more most of you usually lose track of this, especially since people haven't been keeping you aware that you want to be aware of this. In other words, if when you're born, your mother is aware that you're pure positive energy and she's trying to coax you into that alignment, it's easier. But most people forget pretty soon, and so they're sort of hanging out there on the raw and ragged edge, responding to whatever their environment is showing them. So then you grow up. You have ups and downs. You go to sleep, you come into alignment. You wake up, you're out of alignment. You appreciate, you get back into alignment. You criticize, you get out of alignment. You love someone, you get into alignment. You hate someone, you get out of alignment. You watch a movie that feels wonderful, you get into alignment. You watch CNN, you get out of alignment. In other words, and then you learn to meditate, you get into alignment. In other words, you live life and sometimes get out of alignment. You croak, you go back into alignment. So you get the sense of this. You have the potential of maintaining that alignment once you know what you're looking for. So what you're looking for is alignment. And what alignment feels like is love and appreciation and joy. It feels like passion. It feels like freedom. It's the perception, really, of freedom. And we use the word perception because you're so free you can choose bondage. No one can vibrate for you, so you're doing it all to you, whether you like it or not, whether you like what you're doing or not, you are doing it all to you. But on that end of the scale, it feels like freedom. On the other end of the scale, which feels like fear, it feels like despair, that is your perception of no power. That's your perception of no freedom. That's the feeling of disempowerment. The way you feel is your indication of where you are on this scale. Now, what's this scale? This scale is this crack that we're talking about, isn't it? It's that vibrational relativity between who you really are and not just who you were before you were born, and not just who you were the day you were born, who you have become as a result of being in this masterful, wonderful experience where life is causing you to become more. So have we made the point? You can't not keep up to speed with who you have become and ever feel good. In other words, life can't cause you to become this and you ever feel really good when you're over here beating the drum of this. You got to get up to speed with who you are. So how do you do that? You recognize that the way you feel, that the emotions that you feel are your indicator of how you're doing on this emotional scale. You recognize that when you make a statement and really mean it, nothing is more important than that I feel good. And then you make the effort to feel good, then you can get up the emotional scale on any subject that you want. And it's an interesting thing. We really want you to realize that you might see someone who's experiencing the trauma of the death of someone that they love, who's in despair. And then you might see someone else who seems to have everything in the world going right, who is feeling despair over something that seems utterly insignificant to you. You want to say, get a life, for heaven's sakes. Why are you so worried about that? And we want to say to you, lovingly, mind your own business. Because you don't know what anybody else is doing with their scale. In other words, you have no way of knowing what the vibrational relativity is for anyone else, just like no one else has any way of knowing what it is for you.